Hi all, welcome to the Simple Logistics channel. Today we are going to discuss what's the ideal number of suppliers for each raw material or which material that your company needs. So when talking about equipment, especially airplanes, trucks, or transportation equipment, companies usually have one or two suppliers. And why is that? So, if you follow our channel, you've seen that previously we have discussed about how to make your supply chain more stable and more robust. So, one of the strategies that I discussed and that I say that I like very much is to have more than one supplier. So for me, one is not the ideal number of suppliers for any raw material or equipment, especially equipment. So companies should not be dependent on only one supplier to make their supply chains more resilient, more robust. They should have at least two suppliers. So what I said at the time is, especially if you have a local supplier and another supplier abroad, which is more efficient in terms of cost, that's pretty much the ideal situation. And you manage the shares, how much you are going to purchase from one supplier and how much you're going to purchase from the other supplier. This is the best situation regarding the supply chain situation. And on the other hand, if you have too many suppliers, then you create another problem. You add complexity to the supply chain. So, for example, if you are an air company, then if you purchase aircraft from several manufacturers, you're going to have a lot of spare parts for the aircraft. You're going to buy an awful lot quantity of similar spare parts because the spare parts from one manufacturer they don't fit the other aircraft. For trucks, pretty much the same thing. Industrial machinery. So in many cases, this kind of thing happens. So you have similar products, but they are not interchangeable. They are not 100% equal. You cannot use one in place of the other. So you end up with a lot of inventory of spare parts or raw material because you're using several suppliers. So for me, to decrease the complexity and increase robustness to the supply chain, the ideal number of suppliers would be two, maximum three suppliers for each product, each raw material, each equipment that your company needs or uses. So then you are not dependent on a single supplier. If your supplier has a problem, it doesn't stop your operations. You don't have a huge problem. And even with the aircraft, we had an example lately. So the Boeing aircraft, one model of Boeing aircraft, is grounded for almost a year now, and for all the companies that purchased only these aircraft, so they had to scramble to lease aircraft from other manufacturers to to keep their business running. So it's very important for companies to have these in mind. If you are dependent on only one supplier, the problems that this supplier has, become your problem. So it's better to have at least two options and to, you know, to create a kind of a purchase policy, which supplier has best performance. We are going to increase the purchase from the supplier. These will add good drivers to drive performance from the supplier, to drive good behavior from the supplier, drive better commercial deals with the suppliers. And you always have a backup plan. You always have an option. You always have another support. So, on the other hand, you don't want to add too much complexity. If you have to manage the performance of a dozen suppliers, you have to have a lot of people. You have to add headcount to deal with all these suppliers, to negotiate contracts, to make the purchase orders, to follow up on these purchase orders, to inspect the material when it arrives. If you have different suppliers, specifications might be different, and you have to manage more inventory. So you don't want all this complexity in your company. So keep it simple, keep a small number of suppliers, and you'll have a good, healthy supply chain. And also you will have a volume of purchases or a big enough contract to have a priority treatment from the supplier. Okay, so this was what I had in mind for today. Please leave your comments, your feedback to us. I would love to receive questions from you guys, suggestions for other videos. I'll try to create videos about subjects, especially logistic related subjects that interest you guys, and we'll try to come up with a fresh material every week. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.